Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. So the matric class of 2017, the principal of Howick High School, Mrs. Parkinson, previous principals, I see in the crowd, Mr. Thorpe, Mr. Magney, Mr. Langley, parents, pupils. It's a great privilege to be here this evening, and thank you for the real honour of addressing you on this auspicious occasion, being your 50th Jubilee. Thank you for the invitation. For those of you matric, this is a significant evening, with just 1 week to go and some important exams separating you from the next phase of your life. You'll be faced with many decisions, and there's much power in decision making and in choice. I've walked a very similar path to you all here tonight, the majority of you. I was born and raised in Howick by my parents. I'm grateful able to attend this evening. I went first of all to Howick pre-primary school, then to Howick primary school, and then on to Howick High School, finally matriculating in 1994, as you said. And of course, we were a very civilized bunch back then. I can't see the slideshow. And if you did the next slide, it's just a zoom in to prove I was indeed in that. Just in preparing for tonight, I went through an old photo album and managed to find this picture, which is the next one, just to remind Mr. Bailey, you can't see this shot. Just also noticing, I think I count 4 or 5 teachers who were here during my time. It's lovely to be back here. I think the last time I was actually in the hall was a matric. So it has been a long time and many memories associated with being here. So after your exams, matrics, the road will divide you into the path which each of you choose. Tonight I'd like to share with you some of the stories and memories of my path since the time that I was here in matric, which was 22 years ago. And I hope that some of you will find encouragement in my story, and that what I share will be helpful to you with some of the decisions that you make in your own lives. School wasn't always easy for me, and I think Mr. Bailey and Mr. Magney were, I think, probably my grade 10 year, that probably caused you some stress back in those days. I took science and maths, history. Ms. McAdam?
Yes,
history teacher. Good to see you. And English and Afrikaans and biology. And I passed with a C average. I preferred the sports field, and I'm really grateful to Howick High for offering this component, along with all the other opportunities and experiences that school provided me with. When I matriculated, I was 17, and my C average wasn't enough to get me into university to study physiotherapy, which at that point is what I'd set my mind on one day. So I wasn't sure what to do, and so a good friend of mine, still a friend, Stephen Hughes, is a vet here in Howick, and I decided to take what has since become popularly known as a gap year. The time we felt we were kind of pioneering, that hadn't been done too much at that point. So I sold my second-hand motorbike, my electric guitar, and the band is phenomenal. I think it's so cool that you guys have got a band in your school. And found the cheapest ticket we could find. There should be a picture coming up to Europe at the time, which was via the Congo. But we got there something somehow. And it was a phenomenal year. I worked harder than I ever imagined that I actually could. We spent our time mixing cement on building sites where people didn't speak English in Israel. We mixed drinks working in pubs and bars. For a long time, spent time washing dishes, and in Israel your working week is 6 days long, so you only rest 1 day in the week, and so for 6 days I was on rotation, 10 hours a day washing dishes. We worked in the date plantations, pollinating date trees, and for a very short while, it was a very memorable day. It was one day. We worked in a factory which basically for Woolworths, the equivalent over there, made salads. And I worked in the conveyor line, and every 5 seconds or so a salad would come past me, and I scooped a little scoop of salad dressing onto that salad. And then the next one would come past. What was phenomenal, I counted the seconds until tea break, and then the next break and the next break. But what was amazing to me was to meet people who'd been working there for 20 years in that factory, providing for their families. It was a profound experience. I learned a lot about hard work, perseverance, friendships, and those skills have formed an integral part of my life going forwards. I also realized that the value of tertiary education was very high. And when I returned after that year away, I was even more determined to study physiotherapy. But a year later, my marks from a trick hadn't changed. They were still the same. While I was away, and with help of my parents, it's quite tricky because of the number of papers that you use to apply to university. We applied to all the universities for physiotherapy, and I was unsuccessful. And then a helpful and unknown administrator at the University of Durban, Westville, changed my application without my knowledge or consent to an application for a BSc, a Bachelor of Science. And I got in for that degree, and they told me that if I still wanted to do physiotherapy after a year, I could reapply with my marks from my BSc. I remember that first few weeks of university, because in the first kind of week and a half we revised our entire high school science syllabus, and it was quite a shock to me at the time, and I knew that it was serious. It was time to kind of shape up or ship out. So I applied myself academically like I had never done before, and I was fortunate to qualify 5 years later with an award for being the top practical physio of our year. But even during that time, there was political and social unrest on our university campus. And I know this is a concern for many matriculants and their parents going forward. But just to reassure you, during those 5 years, I don't remember a single holiday that actually happened when it was scheduled to happen on the school calendar. We were always catching up for lessons which had been missed because of the riots throughout my education. And we frequently fled the campus and we were evacuated under guard. There was one situation, and we were actually completely safe the vast majority of the time, but someone in their panic to leave kind of riot which was happening about 100 meters away from us caused the most damage of the day when they reversed their car in a hurry and smashed the whole back of their car in an effort to flee. But it's panic, it wasn't grounded at the time. I learned a tremendous number of life lessons during my time at university. As a student, I played live music. I bought another guitar, and I played 3 nights a week to pay the bills. And in my second year of physiotherapy, I married Tony, who was my girlfriend since matric. I met Tony when we were at Howick primary school. When we got married, we were both 21, and we've now been happily married for 19 years. Tony's here in the front row, and my 2 daughters, I think that towards the back, that are here with us tonight. Tyler is 15, Ella's 13, and we have a 7-year-old son who's probably in bed, tucked up in bed by now, and so can't be here. But much of the enjoyment and success of my life has come from doing life together with my wife. my advice to you would be to choose your partners in life very carefully, be that business or your wife or husband. Be good to them. There is much power in things that can be achieved when you're working in partnership with one another. So after qualifying, I started work as a physiotherapist. I took a pay cut from my job as a musician. I tried for 2 weeks to do both, but wasn't able to maintain both. And then a year later, we had the rare opportunity of purchasing the physiotherapy practice from the owner at the time, with my partner, we've been working together now for 17 years. Since then, we've been able to grow that one practice into quite a sizable practice. We operate in 11 sites and we employ over 40 staff. Then in 2012, a tender went out to develop a high-performance sports science centre at Mozambique Stadium. At the time, as a province, we were about 20 years behind the other major provinces in terms of high-performance sport. And we felt really that it was our purpose to correct that. We won the tender. Our team visited the world's leading high-performance centres at the time, brought those ideas back to Durban, and then the Prime Human Performance Institute started. We've been operating now for 5 years. I have a picture there, I don't know if it's on the screen, just a single slide of Prime, what it looks like. One of the amazing projects we've been able to run is what's been called the Elite Athlete Development Program, which is a government-funded program. The Department of Sport has been phenomenal in the work they're doing in this area. And we basically look after 115 athletes across 19 different sports codes across the province. And the goal is to really fast-track transformation in the province. It's one of our primary goals. And to create icons, sporting icons that can serve as role models for the youth in our province, in our country. The program the athletes in the program have been incredibly successful, and we're very proud last year when we had one Olympic medalist, one of our athletes won a medal in Rio, and 2 of the athletes won Paralympic medals. Phenomenal achievement, and we really have such good talent in the province, and it's been a privilege to work with those athletes and those coaches. Then, if my year's right, just over 2 years ago, our centre is part of an international association for Olympic training centres. There's over 80 of them around the world, and we've been attending these conferences every 2 years, and felt that it would be amazing to bring that conference to Durban, to South Africa. We felt at the time that we'd be able to do it well and perhaps raise the bar on what was being done. And we did a bid to host this conference, and we did a bid against Helsinki in Scandinavia and Barcelona. And it was quite a thing because we were kind of the outsiders. And Barcelona and Helsinki were really wanting this conference. I think, if I remember correctly, Helsinki offered to pay for the accommodation and the hotel for all the delegates as an incentive to get them there. But we were humbled to win that bid, and just over a month ago we then hosted over 40 countries here in South Africa, in Durban, for that conference of the CEOs and directors of the world's Olympic training centres and high-performance centres. It was great fun, and really just sometimes as South Africans, we're not sure about where we fit into the global stage and the world stage. And we've got so much to offer. And just being able to host that very successful event was evidence in some ways of the amazing value that we have to offer, not just locally, but even to the international community. Mm-hmm. The theme of the conference was sustainable performance, and without going into too much detail, when we do win medals at the Olympics as a nation, we do it at a fraction of the cost of what the majority of other countries spend on developing athletes to win medals, sometimes up to 50 times less than the documented spend of other countries. So they came here and we learned a lot from them, but we had a lot of content relating to how they can be more cost effective with the money they're spending in developing their athletes. And it really was a two-way street, which was amazing. Matrics, and to the pupils who will be entering matric in years to come, you've been given an incredible advantage coming to a school like Howick High School. The grounding that you've received here will be a great advantage to you as you navigate the rest of your path through life. Many people that I know from Howick High School have had positive impacts, not just in South Africa but around the world. There are past pupils who work for Google, who head up businesses around the globe. Someone I know developed a pumping system that operates without electricity and is of tremendous value for us as a country. There are pupils who are being phenomenal mothers, raising children, to teachers, and many who are playing positive roles in their communities. I believe that great opportunity still exists in South Africa, especially for entrepreneurs, in the trades, in the security industry and tourism, which are thriving industries in this country, as well as in marketing. People I know who were initially unable to find employment have offered themselves as voluntary interns into the workplace, working for little or no money, doing the job which they wanted but didn't get, and in doing so creating a track record on their CV, creating experience, and very often, if they can work hard, winning a position for themselves even within those same companies. So one has to be tenacious. I think there is opportunity out there. One has to be tenacious. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. One of the athletes we've had the privilege to work with is Tyron Pillay, and he's a Paralympic athlete who won a medal in Rio. Battling to find a coach to teach him, having looked far and wide, he ended up resorting to looking at training videos on YouTube. And much of his success as an athlete, in terms of his coaching, is attributed to the skills that he acquired while watching YouTube on his own without any intervention from a coach. The environment that we're in can be challenging, but there are many who have overcome far worse. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of this, but if you live in a home which has running water and electricity, and your family owns a car, then you're regarded to be in the top 5% of wealthy individuals in the world. I'd like to challenge you to seek and define what's important to you in life, and to ensure that your values and your lifestyles and your decisions that you make reflect that. To be purposeful and intentional, and make decisions. Make them yourself. In my experience, if you don't make a decision, very often the decision will be made for you with the passing of time. Use your experience and benefit from the experience of others. You don't have to make all the mistakes yourself. You can benefit from those who've gone before you. And make the right decisions. Right decisions are not always the easiest. In fact, often they're the opposite. I'd encourage you to persevere. And that's been one of the most important things in our business is persevering. There's a book in the Bible, in the book of Samuel, where one of David's warriors called Elijah, that speaks about him in this battle. And they were losing the battle. And the army around him was being pushed back and pushed back. And yet he carried on fighting and carried on fighting. He was isolated for a while, but still didn't give up. He persevered. And eventually his colleagues in the army were able to come behind him and support him. And after a period of time, where they struggled together, they won the battle. And the story recounts how, at the end of the battle, when everyone was exhausted, Elijah's hand was so formed around the shaft of that sword that they couldn't remove the sword from his hand. And that's the kind of tenacity that one needs to succeed. It's my hope and prayer that you seek out and discover the calling on your life. Use the advantages and the talents that you've been given. You have what it takes. Provide hope for your nation going forwards. And remember, whatever you do, do it well. Thank you very much.